Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Sonic Multiverse. During the build-up for the game Sonic Forces, there was a lot of questions revolving around the new villain, Infinite. People questioned who this guy was, what his role in the story would be, and after Sonic Mania released, they wondered how he was connected to the Phantom Ruby. One user by the name Henke proposed the idea that Tails could be Infinite, specifically one from another universe. Now, obviously this turned out to be false. However, as someone who only heard this theory after playing Sonic Forces back in 2017, I thought it was an interesting take on the character. After all, although I personally like Infinite as the cold-hearted, egotistical psychopath that he is, I think it would be way more interesting if Infinite was a fallen friend. Now, the theory proposed by Henke, link in the description, was based mostly around the alternate ending of Game Gear Sonic 2. For those unaware, in Game Gear Sonic 2, your main objective is to save Tails, who has been kidnapped by Dr. Eggman. However, if you fail to get all the Chaos Emeralds, you'll get the bad ending, where Tails remains captured by the Doctor and is seemingly killed. However, this theory proposes the idea that in this reality, Tails is mutated into Infinite. And by some series of events, he would leave his dimension and invade the modern Sonic universe, kind of like how classic Sonic ended up in Sonic Forces. Now, that's definitely an interesting way to take this. However, no offense to Henke and his theory, but I think it's overly complicated, and putting that aside, I mean, let's be honest, this is Sonic, everything's overly complicated. It just wouldn't have the same emotional impact. I mean, sure, it's Tails, but it's a Tails of another universe. Modern Sonic doesn't know him. So instead, what if Dr. Eggman got a hold of Tails in the modern canon and altered the innocent fox into his ultimate weapon of destruction? What if Tails became Infinite? Our story begins on the mysterious mini-planet known as the Lost Hex. Sonic and Tails team up with Dr. Eggman to defeat his rebellious minions, the Deadly Six. Like in the original story, Zavok, with the help of his former master, Zik, come up with the plan to roboticize Sonic and make him their slave. However, when the trap is sprung, it is ultimately Tails who is captured, and not the Blue Hedgehog. Although Zavok and Zik are initially annoyed by these turns of events, they choose to use Tails, knowing that Sonic wouldn't hurt his best friend. After a while, Tails is prepped for roboticization. "Your friend has embarrassed me for the last time. You will be my instrument of revenge." As Zaman prepared the final preparations, the lumbering oaf left his sandwich on the table. In the original timeline, Tails used the toothpick from this sandwich to reprogram the supercomputer, so instead of being roboticized, he only got the outer casing of the robotic exoskeleton, meaning that he kept his mind intact. However, in this timeline, things played out differently. Zavok noticed the crummy, greasy mess on his workbench. "You can be unorderly in your own quarters, Zaman. But get that wretched excuse for subsistence off of my table." With that, the orange glutton picked up the sandwich and wolfed it down in one fell swoop. Tails now had no way of reaching the supercomputer, meaning the roboticization played out as intended. The events of Sonic Lost World play out as for normal until Sonic comes in contact with Zavok, Xena, and Zor for the final time. On cue, Tails landed in his new roboticized form in front of Sonic. It appeared as if the life itself had been drained from the fox as he stared emotionlessly at Sonic. "Tails, what have they done to you?" With no audible response, Tails aims his arm-mounted cannon at Sonic's head. "Give up now, Sonic, and join your friend." "Never." "Very well. Tails, destroy him." "Very well, Master Zavok." As Tails marches towards his enemy, Sonic tries to reason with Tails. "Come on, Tails, snap out of it! I don't want to have to fight you." The Hedgehog's pleas fall on deaf ears. However, before Miles pulls the trigger, his body begins to twitch and glitch as if something was fighting for control. A strange noise could be heard by both Sonic and the Zeddy. Tails suddenly spins around on his heels, shooting at the Zeddy. The Zeddy are taken aback. The roboticized fox doesn't seem to be affected by their technoesis anymore. Sonic smirks, initially thinking that his friend has returned to him. However, sadly, that wasn't the case. A gargantuan robot in Eggman's likeness appears. "Hello, Sonic. Zavok, did you miss me?" "Eggman, how are you? What have you done?" "It's quite simple, you scarlet simpleton. I was tired of you playing with my toys. So, I created a radio wave that cancels out your technopathic frequencies. After Q-Bot's infection, it was quite simple to come up with countermeasures. Now all of my minions, including Tails, are back under my control." Eggman looked at Sonic. "You helped Tails deal with Xena and Zor. Zavok is mine." With their shaky alliance re-established, Sonic helps Eggman fight the Zeddy. Sonic and Tails quickly leaped into action, attacking Zor and Xena. The Zeddy were still powered up by the energy collected from Earth, but Sonic and Tails were far more experienced. Xena tried to catch Sonic with her signature energy whips, but Sonic simply used the momentum from it to kick her in the face, knocking her out. Tails took full advantage of his cybernetic gun. The blaster began to spout out lasers in all directions, several of them hitting Zor. Thanks to his powered-up state, he would live, but a blow like that would definitely leave a mark. "Ha! Way to go, Tails!" Tails simply responded with an emotionless glance. Clearly, the conditioning of the roboticization was still in effect. Zavok growled, "Fools! Must I do everything myself?" With that, Zavok began tapping into the energy stolen from Earth, unveiling his gargantuan final form. The towering titan of a Zeddy spat fireballs at Eggman's mech. With a couple quick maneuvers, Eggman dodged the attacks and countered with his own. The Mega Egg Robo formed 3 massive fireballs of its own, hurling them at the Mega Zeddy. Despite making direct contact with Zavok's flesh, it only slowed him down. The former slave and former master began battling in direct combat, Zeddy to mech. A series of haymakers and thunder-cracking punches broke out in this kaiju-style battle, but ultimately, Zavok's superior strength tossed the Egg Robo aside. Eggman realized that he had underestimated the power of Zavok. Seems I'll need to kick things up a notch. With that, Eggman's mech began drilling into the ground, creating massive spikes to slow down Zavok long enough to charge up his final attack. The Egg Robo began amassing a giant fireball, similar to the one seen earlier, but far more powerful. As Zavok charged in for the final blow, Eggman launched the attack. The miniaturized sun hit Zavok directly in the face. This earth-shattering attack cost Eggman all the energy he had left, but it was more than Zavok could take. The blast sent Zavok flying, all the way off of the Lost Hex to the earth below. The leader of the Deadly Six was down for the count. Eggman cackled to himself in triumph. That's what happens when you mess with the best. With the Zeddy dealt with, Eggman now turned to Sonic. Now, I believe our partnership has ended, Hedgehog. Hey, our deal was that I stopped the Zeddy and you restore the planet. And you were foolish enough to believe me. Tails, suppressive fire. As the Egg Robo began to take off, Tails began firing bolts of energy at his former friend. Unable to get enough height to attack Eggman and unwilling to attack Tails, Sonic was forced to retreat. The events of Sonic Lost World come to a bittersweet end. The Zeti may have been defeated, but many regions of the Earth had been drained of life by Eggman's energy extractor, and worse, he now had Tails under his control. Both Knuckles and Amy were horrified to hear what happened to Tails, and promised that they would help Sonic find him. The story comes to an end as Sonic looks out on a horizon, hoping to find where Eggman has taken his little buddy. He looks out onto a dead forest, but deep within it is a single flower, which despite everything, has survived. Maybe hope isn't gone. Not yet, anyway. Dr. Eggman marches through his laboratory, giving orders to his robotic henchmen, Orbot and Cubot.
I'm sorry, boss. My audio receptors must be malfunctioning. You want us to enable his free will again?
Of course. Tails is almost as smart as I am. With another genius on the battlefield, he could be an asset to the Eggman Empire. Besides, if I need more brainless machines, I could always just turn to you. Orbot reluctantly complied, setting Tails' cybernetic parts to safe mode, giving the fox free will. Somewhat. Tails began to stir inside his pod. Wait, where am I? Don't worry, Tails. You're among friends. Eggman? When Sonic finds me, you'll be sorry. Yeah, I'm sure I will. Now, you belong to me, Tails. And like all of my pawns, I want you to be in tip-top condition. After all, as your doctor, I must say, what those Zeti did to you was truly monstrous. Just look at that armor. So unrefined, so inadequate. But don't worry, when I'm done with you, you'll be my perfect source of infinite destruction. Like I'd ever work for you. Oh, I have my ways. Eggman turned to Orbot. Access his memory files. Delete all non-essential assets. I want him a blank slate that I can manipulate. Both Orbot and Cubot seemed horrified by this request, but complied. Tails began beating on the glass as he felt the data being removed from his half-roboticized brain. Farewell, Tails. When you wake, you'll be mine. While Tails is sedated, the events of the Sonic IDW tie-in comic Rise of Infinite plays out. Eggman discovers the Phantom Ruby, a magical stone from another dimension, being able to manipulate one's perception of reality. Eggman witnessed its power firsthand, or rather, the ruby allowed him to witness his wildest dreams come to life. Soon after, Jackal Squad attacked Eggman's base, attempting to raid his technology. However, Eggman was impressed by their ingenuity, and instead chose to hire them on the spot. They would be his new security force as he researched the Phantom Ruby. Unfortunately for Jackal Squad, a few days later, when Shadow infiltrated one of Eggman's bases, they would all be wiped out. The leader of Jackal Squad was forced to limp back to Dr. Eggman in disgrace. Doctor. Oh, you're still here? Well, you and your squad have served your purpose. I've researched the Phantom Ruby, and my perfect weapon is ready. Consider yourself relieved of duty. The Jackal was speechless. But, Doctor, I'm still of use. I will not be thrown aside. Oh, but you will. This isn't about you. But I suppose if you still want to be useful, you'll make great target practice. Tails! From the other side of the room, the Phantom Ruby, which had been attached to Tails' pod, began to activate. Red cubes began to embellish the fox, as the steel plating began to multiply and change. Tails screamed out in pain, and in a flash of light, his form had changed. The young fox was gone, and in his place stood Eggman's newest minion, Infinite.
I await your command, Lord Eggman.
Very good, Infinite. Take out the trash. With that, Infinite complied, destroying the former leader of Jackal Squad. For the next few weeks, Infinite honed his skills in many of the training facilities of the Doctor's base. Excellent work, Infinite. Your abilities strongly exceed predictions. I'd say you're almost ready for field testing. As if on cue, an enormous eruption could be heard from the other side of Eggman's base. E-123 Omega had attacked.
Dr. Eggman, surrender yourself so that I may eliminate you.
No time like the present, I suppose. Infinite, you know what to do.
As you wish, Lord Eggman.
And with that, the corrupted fox cub flew off to battle the intruders. Elsewhere, Team Dark were communicating.
Extermination proceeding without incident. No problems to report.
Extermination? This was meant to be a recon mission. You should have known better than to send Omega on an op like this. I'll be there soon. Shadow raced through the sand hills of South Island, a newly formed location from the formerly Green Hill, which had been destroyed by the energy extractor the Deadly Six had used. It was now swarming with Eggman robots, but Shadow plowed through effortlessly. Inside the Arsenal Pyramid, Omega had finished tearing through Eggman's forces, when suddenly, Infinite arrived.
So, you're Omega, huh? You shouldn't be much of a challenge.
Omega immediately recognized the new combatant as Tails.
Prepubescent meatbag. Either assist me in my destruction, or step aside.
Infinite didn't budge.
Very well. I'll show you what real destruction is.
In a sudden flash of light, Infinite dispatched of Omega in one single blast. The walking arsenal collapsed to the ground, his armor damaged, and his systems powered down. Before Infinite got to appreciate his handiwork, a barrage of chaos spears were launched at him. Shadow leaped into combat, prepared to defend his fallen friend. You're gonna regret doing... Wait, Tails?
You must be mistaken. I am Infinite, Eggman's loyal...
Tails, snap out of it. I don't know what happened to you, and I don't know why you're doing this, but you need to stop. Infinite quickly grew tired of this conversation.
You are an intruder, and like all others, you will be exterminated.
Fine. Don't say I didn't warn you, kid. Shadow's rocket boots ignited as he raced towards his opponent. He wished to end the fight quickly as not to hurt Tails, but Infinite had other ideas. As Shadow attacked, Infinite initialized the Phantom Ruby, sending Shadow to virtual reality. Inside the illusionary world, Shadow reawoke with a splitting headache. Before the ultimate life form could even understand what was going on, he was suddenly attacked by... Rouge? Rouge? What the hell's going on?
Stow it, darling. I don't talk to monsters.
Monsters? What are you talking about? But before Shadow could get his answers, another voice spoke up.
Must eliminate all extraterrestrial threats.
Shadow wasn't sure what was going on, but he knew this couldn't be real. Not only would Rouge and Omega never attack him like this, but the real Omega had just been defeated in front of his very eyes. So, as these weren't his true allies, Shadow had no reason to hold back.
Here he comes! Squash that alien scum!
You're welcome to try. Outside the illusion, Infinite received a call from Dr. Eggman. Infinite, we're initializing the self-destruct sequence. I recommend you get out of there now. Infinite was confused. But Lord Eggman, I can defeat Shadow here and now. All I have to do is intensify the illusion, break his mind, and... Even if you were that powerful, Infinite, that isn't your mission. Evacuate now. Let a gun dig up their remains. With that, the transmission ended, and Infinite begrudgingly followed the orders of his master. When Infinite left, virtual reality disintegrated, bringing Shadow back to the real world. Wait, is this real? Shadow? Shadow? Rouge? Oh, thank God the comms are back. The whole place is going up in flames. Get Omega and get out of there. Withdrawing now. Shadow quickly grabbed whatever remained of Omega, and whipping out a single Chaos Emerald he possessed, he enunciated the words, Chaos Control! The pair escaped just in time. Team Dark returns to GUNHQ. After a rather confusing report, Omega's remaining parts are sent to the repair yard. It'll be a long time before the walking arsenal is battle-ready again. A fact that Omega showed his, disapproval with very colorful language. On the border of Lost Valley, Shadow and Rouge discuss what to do next. I need to find Sonic. Let him know what's become of Tails. Well, I gotta be honest, handsome. I was hoping you'd stick around for a bit longer. But I know better than to try and persuade you. Just keep in touch. And try not to get yourself killed. You too, Rouge. With that, Shadow sets off into the distance to find his blue-quilled comrade. From far away, Eggman watches through a spy cam. I was hoping they'd be eliminated, but Team Dark being disbanded works just as well. With Gun weakened, my glorious plan is ready. So rest well for now, Infinite. Your field testing was a success, but soon you'll face the real challenge. Yes, Lord Eggman.